Hey, welcome to Just Salvos this week. There's no Jen Peterson, just Kris Halliday, but we have a very special guest all the way from New York, via Skype. It's good to have with us Amanda Merrett. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, how you going?
We're really well, although the weather has been a bit more pleasant here than it's been there the last week or so. You got through okay?
Yes, it was fine. New York got off relatively easy compared to a couple of the other states and a couple of the other areas that were hit.
Well, that's good. We're happy for you. Now, the reason we're talking to you is because you're a Melbourne girl. In fact, you've come out of the Ringwood Salvation Army.
That's correct.
And now you're in New York. What are you doing there?
I am in the city of New York, which is an amazing city, doing an internship with the Salvation Army's International Social Justice Commission.
Now, for those of us who don't know, can you tell us ever so briefly, what do the International Social Justice Commission do?
I sure can. The International Social Justice Commission, or the ISJC, is basically the Salvation Army's international representative for social justice. So we have a five-fold goals that we use to try and restore justice. Yep. So one of those is, do you want me to go through them for you?
Please do.
Cool. So the first one is strategic voices written on a piece of paper with the world's poor and oppressed. The second is to be a recognised centre of research and critical thinking of issues of global social justice. So we do a lot of research here. A lot of the people here actually have PhDs and masters in particular fields. So we do a lot of research in areas. The third point is to collaborate with like-minded organisations to advance the global cause of social justice. So we partner with a lot of NGOs and other faith-based organisations to bring about the work of social justice. Our fourth point is to exercise leadership in determining social justice policies and practices of the Salvation Army. And our fifth point, which is my favourite, is to live the principles of justice and compassion and inspire others to do likewise.
They are fantastic. I think the fifth one is my favourite too. Now you, the ISJC, as you called it, works pretty closely with the UN, is that right?
Yes, we do. We actually have a New York representative to the UN. Her name is Major Vicky Edmonds, and she does a phenomenal job representing the Salvation Army on particular committees that are at the UN and just being a voice for people in the Salvation Army. Now,
a lot of people here, and I guess we're using it from our Australian or our first world lens, but a lot of people here, claim that the UN is just a toothless tiger and they're kind of useless. From you on the ground there and as part of a team who has a close involvement with the UN, what do you think about those claims?
Yep. I can definitely understand how those interpretations of the UN can come across. I've been in New York for just over 2 months now, and I've been here in the summer, which means that things have slowed down a lot. Yep. So I haven't experienced the UN at its busiest time yet. So my interpretation of this might change in a couple of months. But I think without the UN, we could be a lot worse off. I understand how people have that conception of the UN, but without the UN, we probably wouldn't have the Millennium Development Goals.
Yep.
And we wouldn't have the kind of awareness that we do at the moment. So I think the Salvation Army has a very unique opportunity to interact with the United Nations. Yep. And it's a great way to network, and it's a great way to connect with other people who are engaged in this cause of social justice. So I think the UN does a lot of good stuff. And I think that we have to, engage in the positives that the United Nations does.
Well, that sounds incredibly interesting. Obviously, there are some slightly different interpretations of what social justice means in America. In fact, I don't think they even use that term all that much, do they, Amanda?
No, it tends to be related to political parties, and then it gets really messy and how you think the country should be run. So engaging New Yorkers in the concept of justice is an topic, because we really have to remember the cultural context of what that means. And it's really a challenge to try and link biblical justices with justices today, to see how people kind of make that connection in their own mind.
Yeah. Well, there's a great clip actually that you've recommended to us, which sort of speaks to that. So we're going to have a quick look at that right now.
The quest for justice is central to UN Women's mission. We are seeking global gender justice.
Justice, to me, is about setting a wrong right.
Justice means equity, fair institutions, and individual accountability.
Equality between everyone, regardless of their religion, gender, affiliations, ideologies.
Justice is equality, fairness, and the right to be heard.
Fair treatment, rule of law, and being honest.
Two genders, equal rights, equal opportunities, no discrimination, no sexism.
Justice is reparation. Justice is healing.
Accountability of perpetrators, reconciliation between communities, and it also means a form of truth-telling.
Justice is, as a principle, for me, is about fairness, is about equity.
Dignity, humanity.
Justice is being heard, acknowledged, and compensated for experiences of inequality.
Justice is rights in action for everyone, everyone, everyone.
That was excellent. Thanks so much for suggesting that to us, Amanda. It's good to have a local's view of justice. But for an Australian local, you're actually doing something a little bit different, and that is that you've obviously invested yourself in a pretty intense way. In fact, you've given up a year of your life to go to New York and be a part of the Salvation Army's inner workings. We heard from a few young people here a few weeks ago who said that it would seem many young people are moving away from the larger organisations and either starting their own, such as Oak Tree or the Australian Youth Climate Coalition, or they're joining their friends in those kind of movements and moving away from the more established organisations. You're a trend bucker. What's caused you to stay on the good ship Salvo?
Yeah, sure. I think it can be put as simply as my first priority is the kingdom of God and bringing about the kingdom of God. And I believe that God is asking me to participate in bringing about the kingdom of God through the work of the Salvation Army. Now that doesn't mean that I think the Salvation Army is incredibly amazing and, they do no wrongs. I still get frustrated with some of the decisions that the Salvation Army makes. But saying that, the Salvation Army does amazing work, and I'm committed to getting on board with what they do and bringing the kingdom of God through that.
Okay, so what roles do you see, either here or particularly from where you are, what roles do you see for other young people? Obviously, every young person in Australia can't become an intern at the ISJC. What kind of roles do you see?
I think there are incredible opportunities for young adults and youth to get involved in local injustices or get involved in bringing about justice in a local setting. So that could be as simple as visiting the welfare that operates through their core and getting to know people there. Or it could be things like engaging in a soup kitchen, or even just prayer walks around the neighbourhood that seems to be really surrounded by injustices. So I think it's quite easy in a sense to get involved in a local injustice, because there are always things in your community that need prayer, and there are always things in your community that need the help of God and need that presence in their life. I think, sorry?
No, go on.
I think in a global setting, things can obviously be difficult, a little bit more difficult to get on board with. But if you're sincerely and seriously committed about seeing the kingdom of God happen at an international level, then, what's actually stopping you from going and doing that? What's stopping you from going to another country and getting involved in, I'm not sure what there is, like maybe a children's home or something like that. International justice, I think, takes on a different level of commitment, because the way you engage in international justice is different when you're not actually in that country. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd be interested to know, since you've been in a different country and in New York, obviously some of the local issues are the same as the ones we face here, but you're in a position where you're able to see from a global perspective. Are there issues that maybe you didn't see from when you were here in Australia, or that us here with our Australian lenses on? Are there issues that maybe we're not aware of that are going on that are really of concern?
One issue that has been brought to my attention that never really crossed my mind when I was in Australia is the idea of peace and conflict as playing a massive role in poverty. Obviously, because in Australia we are quite a peaceful country, so we don't have wars that are going on within our borders. So as an intern, I'm involved 1 day a week with a faith-based organisation called Religions for Peace. And they are a multi-faith organisation, and they work at a grassroots level and at an organisational level in bringing about peace and raising awareness about particular conflicts and how you can empower people to engage in actively bringing about peace. And I think before I got involved in Religions for Peace, I wasn't aware of how much of poverty and how much you have to things like rape as a weapon of war, and how much people's lifestyles and living is destroyed by war.
So how has that affected you? How has seeing and being aware of these kind of things now, particularly such, gruesome things as rape around the world being used as a weapon of war, how has that affected you coming out of the very pretty Ringwood Salvation Army here in inner city Melbourne?
Yeah. It's definitely been, I think I would describe it as a tension, because you work in this environment where you're confronted with evils and with incredible injustices that women and children in particular have to face. And then you shut down your computer and you go to your lovely apartment in an amazing city, and it's this really uncomfortable contrast.
Yep.
And that's definitely something I've struggled with. And I think it helps to know that through my work at Religions for Peace, I'm actually helping bringing about just that little bit of justice. And I think it's also about not shutting off to it. It's about still engaging in it. I don't want to be the kind of person who closes down their computer and then forgets about the injustices that go on in the world. So I think you continue to wrestle with it and you continue to sit in the tension, because that's part of bringing the kingdom of God, is being aware of how it's not here yet.
Yep.
And, you pray about it as well.
Amazing. Amanda, we do have to wrap up. We've only got a tiny amount of time, but very quickly, I know it's an issue that's close to our Commissioner's heart, Commissioner Aileen Finger, and that is women's ministries and women's issues in Australia. You're looking at women's issues around the world as part of a project? I
am. So part of what I do as an intern here is a research project over the year-long stay. And so I've decided on the looking into the role of women's ministries and their role in preventing poverty, which will be a very interesting research project to undertake. At the moment, I'm doing a bit of a historical review to look at how things like Home League and women's ministries began, and looking at what they are now. So hopefully in about 9 or 10 months, I'll have a finished project, and we'll be able to report on women's ministries in particular territories, both developing and developed, and how they assist in alleviating poverty.
Amanda, we'll look forward to it. We do have to wrap up. Any message for your friends and core folk at home?
Just to say hello. I'm having a wonderful time, but I miss you all.
Oh, how sweet. Amanda Merrett, it's been an absolute privilege. We're lucky to have someone like you in such a role. Soak it up, get all you can out of the experience. Those of us at home can, of course, keep track of what the International Social Justice Commission is doing by looking at their brand new Facebook page. The details are on the screen right now. You can also, of course, look at our Facebook page, facebook.com/justsalvos, or our website, www.justsalvos.com. It's been amazing, Amanda Merrett. Thank you so much. Everybody else, I'll see you next week back with Jen Peterson. Catch you then.